Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Daily Grind. This is episode 14. I've titled it, I Saw What You Did There. And if you guys notice, I'm flying solo today, so be it. I had a guest that was supposed to be lined up for today, but sadly, they had to drop out at the last minute. I believe it was personal business. So, Tyler, if you're watching or listening, all the best. I hope everything's okay. Hope to talk to you again soon. If you guys notice, we're back. We're back in the shop again. Thankfully, we were given the time to come back into the shop today. So thank you to Lafayette Engineering and Mechanical Engineering specifically. So like I say every time, Lafayette boasts an unparalleled engineering curriculum in mechanical, civil, environmental, electrical, and computer engineering. Chemical. I think I got them all. But if you or someone you know has a high schooler looking for a place that's going to put them ahead of the pack when it comes to getting their engineering degree and their first engineering job, we invite you to say Colonel or why not and say our namesake's rallying cry and join us here at Lafayette Engineering. As a further tip of the hat to engineering, I've added their website to the video description. So please, like I said, if you have a high schooler looking for a place, please check us out. You will not regret it. So for those of you that have been listening and watching for a while, you understand what this show is. For those of you that are just joining us, welcome. The Daily Grind is a bit of a double entente on both coffee, the grind of coffee, and various types of grinding and machining. So being that it's a show about machine shop culture over coffee, today's coffee is brought to you by none other than our newest partnership, Fresh Roasted Coffee, LLC, out of Sunbury, PA. I cannot thank these guys and gals enough. A little story behind the whole deal is I have been, as you fervent listeners well know, is I've been looking for a coffee company to make the quote-unquote official coffee of the shop. And I had thought I had a deal a few months ago, but that fell through, sadly. I was really excited about that, but, bummer. And I don't know what caused me to have the epiphany, but I had reached out to the alumni relations office at my old alma mater, Pennsylvania College of Technology in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, who by far prepared me for my life. They prepared me for my career. They prepared me for everything. They were an excellent place to go for a tech school. If you have somebody looking to get into the trades, which, as you well know, I am hugely about, I rave about getting younger people back into the trades. If you guys remember one of my beginning episodes, it was soon after we came back after the new year. I had Terry Iverson on in the end of January, raving about getting young people into the trades. But I digress. So I had reached out to the alumni relations office at my alma mater, Pennsylvania College of Technology, and I had kind of started the conversation with, a lot's changed. And I wondered if they could put me in touch with an alumni that is in the trade of coffee brewing. And after a very convoluted search, they gave me all sorts of suggestions on how to find people, fellow alumni that are in the coffee grinding world. And after one of the most convoluted searches I've ever had in my life, I guarantee it, I came across a couple of companies, and the one that reached back was Fresh Roasted Coffee out of Sunbury. Andrew Oakes, I'm pretty sure that if I mispronounced your name, if I gave you the wrong name, please correct me. But Andrew Oakes owns and operates Fresh Roasted Coffee, and they put me in touch with Caitlin Harner. I don't even really know her title at the company. I guess marketing, but she's fantastic. If anybody needs anything from Fresh Roasted Coffee, if you would like to do a partnership like ours, or if you have any questions, Caitlin Harner is the person to reach to. She has all the answers. But they were as ecstatic and energetic about this as I was. And I thought I was going to put them off, or they were going to tell me to go pound sand. But I didn't even think I got the words out. And they said, yes, we'll do the deal, and we'll send you whatever coffee you like. So they asked me what kind of coffees I liked. And a couple days later, this gigantic box shows up in my office with a bunch of uh, fresh roasted coffee swag and a couple different types of brews that I dug right into. And today we have their Italian roast, and I can't rave enough about it. As soon as I get off the show, I guarantee you, I'm going to be getting another cup. This is fantastic stuff. It's a dark roast, and it reminds me of, if you guys ever heard of Tully's Coffee Company, they had a banging Italian roast. And as it was with everything in my life, I found out that if I tell somebody that I like something from a certain company, they just go and get rid of it. I don't know what it is, if it's just a last laugh at me or what. But I told somebody back home that I liked Tully's Italian roast, and then suddenly it was gone. So don't do that. Fresh roasted. Don't do that. Getting rid of things that I like. This is absolutely excellent. I'm looking forward to a long and prosperous partnership. Speaking of, they have a great website. They have, as they put it, literally tons of coffee to choose from. So please check out the video description for a link to their site, and use the code DailyGrind10 to get 10% off your order. So again, fresh roasted coffee. Andrew, Caitlin, everybody there, thank you so much for everything and this excellent opportunity. I can't rave enough about it. Now, how do I follow last week's episode? If you guys remember, we had Scotchman Industries on, and we had Brad Kuchenbecker. And talk about somebody that represented their company well and showed all their offerings. I had spoken with Bradley for maybe half an hour before, an introductory phone call before I had him on the show. And just the wealth of knowledge of him and everybody else that I spoke to at Scotchman is unmatched. They have an excellent operation for sawing, and they were just a stellar first guest to have to kick off this month's series. Again, like I said, I had originally planned to have Hassler Machine on today and a rep from them, but their applications engineer sadly had some personal business that couldn't make it. They are a smaller company, so I don't think they had anybody to fill his shoes, which is unfortunate. But again, I wish him well. I wish everything's okay. And let's start off with a little bit of a lighter topic. Daylight savings. Did it cut into your weekend? I know it's a sticking point with a lot of people, and I've never really had an opinion. It was always something we just did growing up. And after I've talked with a lot of people over the weekend, and some people are like myself and nonchalant to it, and other people have such opinions that you risk sounding like you've insulted their mother when you ask them about it. But I get that we get an hour later at night, but this back to going to work in the dark in the morning is, I thought that was over. But so, like I said, I had put a poll up on LinkedIn just to see what people would say. I haven't seen a whole lot yet on it. Mind you, I put it on at like 2 this morning, so not everybody was awake yet. I invite you to please go check out that poll and answer it. I think I've got a little bit of information to share with you, plenty of information to share with you on sort of a primer on sawing. Since we had a company on, a machine tool builder on last week, and we were going to have a blade maker on this week to start to round out the series, I thought I would give you a basic primer on saw cutting and how it's used. If you are loyal readers of the magazine, you'll notice that I have an article in there. I'd like to start off by first making a few corrections that I made errors on. I'll be the first to admit. And I had an excellent conversation with a reader over the weekend. I'm actually still talking with him now. I don't want to name drop him yet. I don't know if he wants to be out there, but he is a local chap, actually, to the Lehigh Valley here, from what I understand. And I had referenced the company 8020, the aluminum extrusion company, a few times in that article. And I don't know if you can actually see anything in the shop that has that extruded stuff laying around. I think we put it all away, but we use it extensively, and I know it's expensive. I'm so glad I work in a research and development shop and a prototyping shop where money seems to be not as big of an issue. And so we have piles and piles of it. But as I was explaining to this reader, is engineering, there was a professor that devised a really intricate custom rolling workbench for students and professors to use throughout the building. And I think I'll have to check. Please don't quote me on this. I think we made about 24 of them. It was a busy summer. We had bought a bunch of butcher block tops and made 80-20 frames to bolt to the bottom of them. And somebody higher up had made the decision to have 80-20 do the saw cuts for us, so we wouldn't be spending too much time rough cutting them and finish cutting them, because it's a sticking point with everybody. A machinist's time is not cheap, and shop hourly rates are not going down, and they are not cheap. So to find a way to cut some of the cost, we had them do all the cutting, and with the caveat that we would use their brackets, their hardware. And the rep that we spoke with when we made this big order had used the term infinitely adjustable. So even if the saw cut wasn't dead straight, dead nuts, square and true, it would do what we needed it to do, and we'd have plenty of room for adjustment. This wonderful reader that I'm referencing, he pointed out that I believe they had the same thing done. They had 80-20 cut it, but they needed theirs to be, as he put it, dust tight. And it wasn't very square. They ended up having to do post-op cuts to it anyway, which, fair enough. This is excellent point. I love hearing from my readers, and I love getting feedback. So this was an excellent opportunity to speak with somebody else who didn't have the same opinion or same view as I did, and it was very, very, very productive and beneficial. Like I said, I'm still speaking with him now. He's a wonderfully intelligent person, and so anyway, it was on the topic of the cold saw, and Mr. Kuchenbecker last week made multiple references to theirs, and I was just astounded by what they offer. But it is very similar to a miter saw or a wood shop's chop saw that has the teeth, the gullet, the tooth root, all the same geometries. Just the the geometries are much more for metal, and they move a much slower RPM. I think, if I remember correctly, Bradley was telling me 22 RPM, which is just dog slow. But they boasted that they could do these straight walls and the square cuts. So that's what I was going on. So to those readers that have the same opinion as the person I was speaking with, please, by all means, reach out. Tell me what you see. Tell me what you've seen or experienced. I'd love to hear it. No answer's wrong. But we also have done the whole just throw it in the saw and throw a bracket on it. That does the job as well, especially when it's infinitely adjustable. And back to that whole research and development prototyping shop, where we see a lot of alpha prototypes that are bulky. They don't fit inside of really nice packaging, but they do the job, and they get the students thinking about, or the professors thinking about, the next step. So, like I said, this is a wonderful conversation I had over the weekend, and I'm hoping to continue it. Another one is, I forgot to go get it. I might even still just get up and go get one, is we use hole saws, 1-inch hole saws, for the EV formula car. So, again, another reference to a project here at the school. As a tip of the hat to the EV Club, they actually have me on tap now to cut some more frame members. These are going to be temporary frame members, so they can chop off old bits without stressing or torquing the frame. These will just be tack welded in place, but they need fish mouths. And for those of you in the fabrication world that know the term, or they call it notching in the drafting world, it looks like a fish on its side, with the C shape cut. I'll be the first to tell you, I understand that there are commercially available machines that are very affordable, from what I'm reading, that use a drill motor, that you put the hole saw on an arbor in a drill motor, and it just slides right through. It's very, very cost efficient and does the job very well. I believe our civil engineering department uses something of that sort. I don't know the brand. Professor Kurtz is very good about finding these really, really oddball things that do these goofy things and make his projects work. Speaking of Professor Kurtz, just a little tip of the hat to engineering once again is Professor Kurtz will actually be next to me here next week as a guest on the show. We will be talking sawing strategies and making custom cuts on a saw for weld prep and cutting blanks to send to the machine shop. I've referenced this multiple times. I reference it in a few of my articles coming up later this year in the magazine of how the machine shop here gets hired by civil engineering, and we spend usually a couple weeks. All three or four of us will be all hands on deck for 2 to 3 weeks, cutting these really, really intricate bridge connectors that are just rough saw cut. And he leaves us plenty of material to face true and do all the work that we need to do to it. But when we speak with Dr. Kurtz next week, or Professor Kurtz next week, he will have the stage. He will explain all of what led to the purchase of their machine, what they do with it, what they can do with it, what they found that they're having trouble doing with it. And as a little teaser, there is and I've referenced this in a couple of posts and the video descriptions, is there is a little method that's rather unorthodox that he uses for the weld prep and the construction of the bridge that I would like to kind of deviate a little bit from sawings, but it's downstream from the saw cut that he uses to help the students get a successful bridge the last few years. And like I've mentioned, it is something that every time him and I talk about it, I usually end up in tears of laughter. It is the silliest thing, and I think it's a great way to add some levity to the show next week. Not like this is a sad show, but a little extra laugh never hurt anybody. But again, I digress. Having the podium here to myself, I have found that I am taking a lot of liberties, but I really enjoy the subject. So back to the hole saws. We here at Lafayette in the mechanical engineering side in our shop behind me, and the machine is off to my right behind me. It's to your left. It's an old beat up like bottom barrel cheapo Grizzly lathe that I think we picked up at a scratch and dent sale 20 some years ago when they still had those. And if any of you out there are listening, if you're familiar with the Grizzly scratch and dent sale, you could get some pretty okay garage level equipment for almost nothing. It was great. I picked up a little sandblaster for $10, and I still have it to this day. And all I had was a dent in the housing that didn't let it close. So with a piece of angle iron and some C-clamps, we were able to fix it, and it's a perfectly functioning piece of equipment for $10 plus me going to get it. So anyway, that's what led to this. The little Grizzly lathe, I forget, it's a 1010D or something. It's some god awful number. That it's always been a laughing point for us. But it is. We had a really ingenious student one year design a fixture that sits in the cross slide of the lathe. So we kind of do reverse roles with this. Instead of the part spinning in the head and us passing a tool over it, like all turning, we put the hole saw on a drill arbor and put it in the head in a collet. And the cross slide has a really ingenious fixture. If I ever have the chance to meet the guy that came up with this, I'd love to shake his hand and have a cup of coffee with him and ask him how he came up with it. But it's a sundial type gauge that there's a line every 5 degrees. And that is plenty of precision for the fish mounting, since they end up grinding it and fitting it anyway. So what we do is and I covered this in my layout episode at the beginning of the year, is we put Dykem all over the tube and we scribe the line at the top of the tangent at 1/2 inch. And that is our gauge line that we put into the fish mounting machine, fire up the hole saw and pass the tube right through it. So we get our connections in a single cut. Being that it's such a beater machine, we don't really feel so bad about doing this oddball operation. And I think it costs more to have the machine shipped here than it was to buy it, if I'm completely honest. But anyway, so that is our version of fish mouthing or using a hole saw in a machine. I know there are some people that would laugh or find a different way to do it. So be it. I'm not here to tell you that our way is the only way or the best way. There's always multiple ways to get a job done. Now, there are other forms of industrial cutting. We have, and I've covered this in my article even, is we have horizontal bandsaws. Our Scotchman's are horizontal bandsaw. We have quite a few vertical. So we have one in our wood shop that's set up just for wood. It has a very, very, very open pitch blade, jigsaw type of thing. We have a Dave Johnson over here to my left. It's set up for aluminum, so it has a very much looser pitch. I think it's 10 teeth an inch, and it is great for cutting aluminum, brass, all the non-ferrous things that you need a little bit more chip clearance for, especially. And then we have in the back of the shop behind me, we have a Dual. And speaking of Dual, end of this month, the last episode that we do for this month, we will have a Mr. Craig Freaking of Dual contouring machines on, and to talk the brand legacy, the name legacy of Dual. And that was a company that you just said Dual and people knew. It was sawing, it was whatever, contouring machines. It's like Kleenex to tissues. But we have a Dual set up for steel and ferrous materials or tougher, harder stuff. Like I put a lot of stainless through that. And it is a wonderful setup. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, we have a nice, nice, it's old. It's older than I am. But because we use it so little, it seems new. An old L-Tech, if you guys are familiar with that company, L-Tech plasma cutter. And I think we picked that machine up, I think, the same time we got our L-Tech welder in the back of the Formula Garage. And it is a wonderful, wonderful plasma cutter. It turns even quarter-inch steel into butter with nothing. But it is freehand, so unless you have a guide to guide your hand, it looks like about as straight as Virginian's fence by the time you're done cutting. I realize I've just ostracized the entire state of Virginia, but I hope not. The joke is still funny regardless. So we have that. I believe our facilities department down behind the building has a flame cutter. That is another form of industrial cutting that I've had some experience with. Now, when I was at Penn College, we had a couple weeks course on it in our welding minor. And, we learned about all the different tips, the rosebud tip, the cutting tip, and to be honest with you, that is one of those things that I did, and I was very good while I was in the class, but you'd have to kind of preset the torch and hand it to me at this point. But one of the only gripes I have about flame cutting is the slag or the bark, the glass-like slag that's on the end of the parts, especially on stainless. My gosh. The munitions plant I worked at before I came to Lafayette all those years ago, we did a lot of blast guard plates out of 1-inch thick 300 series stainless, and it was always flame cut. And I would spend more time actually on a saw. So what we would do is we would grind away as much as we could to get a saw started. And then we'd pass the saw through. We would just cut the bark off. And we always had it flame cut like an inch or so more on each side, so we could, not have thermally destroyed stainless, but we could also have a good solid chunk of 1 inch and no slag to do our finished machining on. But that was, I would spend days and days, entire 8 or 10 hour shifts at a saw, either pushing it through or setting it up to cut off all that slag. What a nightmare. But again, use of a saw. Our Scotchman has a variable pitch blade on there, which is really, and I covered this in the article. Please, if you're new to the magazine and you are in the trade and eligible, I implore you to please sign up to get the subscription. It is a great read, a great publication. And again, to reference that reader I was speaking to over the weekend, he made the comment that when the magazine shows up in his mailbox, everything stops and he reads through and through. And I'm the same way. I was explaining to him that I have a pile of them on my bench here in front of the VF2, our Haas CNC. And whenever I have long cycle times, I make sure the machine's running. And whenever the cycle's running, I will sit and read an article or two. I can't put it down. So another little teaser for the audience is next month, and I realize we're still in the middle of March, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it's not like it's, I'm giving up any ghosts here, is next month we are doing grinding. And for loyal readers of our magazine, and I believe the other publication he's known for is Modern Machine Shop, we have the vaunted grinding doc on to start off the month next month. So we will have Dr. Jeffrey Badger on and to talk all things grinding. I can't wait. I cannot wait for that episode. That is going to be a lot of fun. But again, I digress. I have a habit of doing that when I have the podium to myself. Now, I covered flame cut. I covered plasma. Another one that's really gaining a lot of traction more and more, and it's been a very good process for however long it's been around in its many forms, is laser. My point is that it's becoming much more affordable for smaller shops to get into it. And if you have to do parts, fabricated parts where you need maybe not as tight of a tolerance, but you don't want to do a whole lot of post-op cleanup, lasers are the way to go. We've had a couple laser parts come to us that we had to do very, very little post-op work to. And, maybe we had to open a hole up a little bit more or take a sharp edge off of something, but the part came to us contoured completely. It was excellent. And we only got it really out of 16 gauge stainless, but I'm sure it can do thicker stuff, and the industrial size machines can handle really big pieces of material. But like I said, laser is the new way to go. I read an article, again, I don't remember what month. They blur. When you have a magazine like Cutting Tool Engineering that is hard to put down, they all blur together. And unless you save and specifically devote to memory what issue is what and what article was in what issue, I'm just going to reference the article and hope the best. So, Dennis, don't hate me. But they had a fantastic article on different types of laser cutting. I think there's carbon dioxide. I believe there's, and please don't laugh at me. I don't remember all of the different types, but an excellent article on using a laser to get either rough cut or mostly finished parts in minimal time. And back to my point I made a few minutes ago was they are becoming much more affordable and readily available to smaller or medium-sized shops. We have contemplated, very, very vaguely contemplated asking for one here at Lafayette Engineering to help take some of the workload off of our water jet. And if our water jet gets tied up with a long cycle time or a very intricate job, that starts to bottleneck a lot of the smaller jobs that come in behind it. And we found that out multiple times over the years. And we were thinking of getting something that would help take some of the workload off of that and still be a viable option for use in the day-to-day. Let's see. I think that covers a lot of the types of different industrial cutting and sawing that I was going to cover today in our little primer. I do have a little story. I was speaking with a shop owner over the weekend, another loyal reader, and they were explaining the new versus old ways of something along the same lines as that stainless job I mentioned a few minutes ago. They had these gigantic steel plate parts they had to rough cut out. And what they would do is they would drill a half-inch hole at the beginning of the part, much like you drill a starter hole for your wire EDM to feed the wire through, and a much bigger scale, of course, gigantic scale. But they would drill a half-inch hole. They would get the length of blade they needed, weld the blade right on the machine, put the blade in the machine, do their cut, snip the blade, and take the blank out of the scrap. And I forget how many parts they had. They said they had to do. They had to do quite a few. And going back to do-all again, it was a do-all machine they had, and this is 40-some years ago, so before my time even. And they were raving about, just like I said earlier on. You said do-all, and it meant saws. And so they had and they still do. They have an excellent onboard welding system for their bandsaw blades. Now, back then, the shop owner was mentioning that the welder was set up for bimetal, not necessarily some of the newer, new finagled stuff they have out now. But to be fair to both the new generation and the old, is all of our saws here are bimetal bandsaw blade. So it's very, very simple to weld, and it's very good practice and practice, and it's a very versatile setup. So if we ever have to do something similar to what this shop owner was explaining, we could drill the half-inch hole or even a little bigger, feed the blade through, leave the part on the table of the saw, weld the blade together, put it in the machine, and go. We'd be operational in no time. So that's just another form of sawing. Let's see. I think that covers just about everything I wanted to talk about today. So I want to take a minute to thank you for tuning in once again, listening to The Daily Grind. We will be back next week with Professor Kurtz of Civil Engineering and Steel Bridge fame. So if all of those at Lafayette Engineering listening and watching, make sure you pay attention next week. You'll have your hero on. I'd like to also extend another thanks to Fresh Roasted Coffee Company for this excellent blend. I can't put it down. Well, I've talked most of the episode, but it's absolutely fantastic. You guys should really, really check these guys out. Huge thanks to Mechanical Engineering for the shop as the backdrop for the show once again, to Lafayette Engineering in general for the time and place to do this show for everybody. This has been an unstoppable opportunity, unmatched opportunity, and I can't thank Lafayette Engineering enough for having the flexibility to do this and give us the place to do this show for you. So make sure you guys tune in again next week, same time, same place, for our regularly scheduled programming. Puns, right? We will be back next week for another episode of The Daily Grind. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great week. Talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.